like to share with you a few thoughts on our climatic conditions and the different indigenous materials available in our country and how they have affected on our vernacular designs. These are just a few thoughts I would like to share with you. Now, Bharatvarsh, our motherland, is a vast country and is a diverse land. But the moment we talk of the word diversity, immediately what we have been taught from childhood, that comes to our mind, that unity in diversity, and only geared towards race, creed, caste, how these different things in our country make India as such. Now, here when I use the word diversity, we actually miss out on the main things, that is the geographical character of this country. As we know that India is a vast land, right from latitude, if we take 8 degrees north of equator to 37 degrees north, then if we take longitudinal variation, it is from 68 degrees east to 97 degrees east. This is the huge tract of land, chunk of land in the south of Asia that we have. This has given rise to different types of climatic types, which in turn has made different physical features in the country, which has given birth to different material availability in this country. Now, as it is, we see that India is a tropical country because the Tropic of Cancer passes right through the middle of it. But here we have microclimates. India does not have similar climate all over. Right from the north in the hilly or the mountainous zones, we have the mountainous climate, cold to very cold in winter, to some south where we have nearly summer all round with hot and humid summer and cool winters. Now, if we see in this itself, we have two coastlands where we have maritime climate, and we have to the west, we have the desert climate where summer winter temperature difference is of course there. Even daytime and nighttime temperature, diurnal temperature also varies hugely. Similarly, we have rainfall where we have highest amount of rainfall in towards Mawsyngram and northeast. We see that hardly any rainfall or very little rainfall in the deserts of Rajasthan. We also have moderate type of climates in cities around Pune, Bangalore, whereas we have extreme type of climate we see in Delhi, where summers are extremely hot, winters are extremely cold. So all these have given rise to different kinds of physical features also. Now, if we see, India is actually called as the epitome of the world, that it has embodiment of or example of every kind of physical features that we see anywhere in the world, that is represented in India, even if it is in miniature. So we have the fold mountains, the block mountains, the volcanic mountains, the plateaus. Then we have the lagoon, whether it is coral reef. Even we have the Lonar Lake in Maharashtra, which is an asteroid lake. Strange, isn't it? So we have every feature here, whether we have the stalactite, stalagmite caves of Araku Valley. Anything you want to see, example is existing in India. So I really wish that the schools and colleges would take the students around and show them the actual things what we have in our country. Because of this, we have got the climate, the different climates, the variation in the climate has given rise to the availability of different materials, as I said. This has given rise to the vernacular architecture of that place. Now, if we see from east to west, let us go from east to west. Right from far east, that is Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland. Even Meghalaya, Assam, most of them have similar kind of architecture. They all the huts are made up of either softwood or bamboo, thatched with straw and leaf, and all of them are on stilts. This is to drain out the heavy rainfall through the slopes, along the slopes. So this, now when we go to the plains, we come down to the plains, what do we find? That these houses have come into mud huts. So we find mud huts instead of bamboo or wood, with again thatched roof. Now India is an agricultural country, so thatch, that is straw from rice or wheat and everything, is available very easily. So thatched roof is seen all over the country. Now here only the material change to mud, because the mighty rivers, the Ganga, Brahmaputra and others, have brought in beautiful quality of silt and clay and deposited on the banks. With this material, we have the huts were built in that. With that, even we also have the bricks which are made from these clays. Excellent quality of bricks we have. Now if we move further to the west, towards the deserts of Rajasthan and even Gujarat, we find that the shape has changed. They become round. This is to take care of the heavy wind, the desert winds and all, and to the south of Gujarat towards Kutch and all, to take care of the regular cyclones and all what they have. The wind load, the wind pressure is taken care by the round shape. Similar huts are seen in the eastern part of India towards the Andhra coast, on the eastern coast, where we know that it is usually devastated by big cyclones and very heavy wind load. They also are round in shape. They are also in clusters. The construction method differs. Here we find that the walls of the huts are made up with mud balls. These make sure that the walls are thicker and can withstand the amount of rain and wind force. The huts are again thatched. Here the vertical, the roofs are again a bit steeper. The thatching is steeper than what we see in the western part of India. Now, when this is all what we are talking of the rural architecture. Most of the architecture in India, what we see, are brick architecture. Most of it is made out of bricks and in certain parts in stone. Bricks again, because we have very big rivers, excellent clay and sand, and we have lots of brick kilns which have come out because of this. Now, I would like to mention a design feature here. Till now I have been talking of material, now the design feature. The most important design feature in India is the Angan, the courtyard. From whether it is north or south or east or west, every house has a courtyard. That is because this makes sure that the house is inward looking and also the air flow. This Angan is found even if you see the Archalas. When we talk of the architectural planning and design, we have to mention the Archalas of Bengal. Archalas are 2 layers of 4-sided roofs. 8, art means 8. So 8 roofs in a house. These also have a courtyard in the center. Now, I would like to mention another kind of architecture that had developed in Bengal around 17th and 18th century, where the terracotta architecture. That is because clay is the most malleable and the most versatile of all material. You can do sculpture with it, with your hands, and you can take molds, you can take any kind, you can do any form with it. So in Bengal, In Bishnupur, in the district of Bankura, you have many temples. Some of them have, of course, fallen now, but the main things are still standing, and now it is deemed as UNESCO World Heritage Site, which are really worth going and having a look. None of the two panels are same, and there are so many temples there. Till now, I have spoken about the mud architecture and the kacha houses, etc. But India has another part to it, the palaces and the forts and all that, which are mainly made out of stone, carved out of stone, and that is towards Rajasthan. Here we find the design, is absolutely extremely climate responsive architecture, and I think students of architecture and interior designers need to go and study these architecture. The way they have used the material, the local material and the local artisans and everything to design them. Now, as I was talking of the Angan, we find that these palaces and the bigger houses, they have a hierarchy of Angans, not just one, but there will be an outer Angan, inner Angan kind of courtyards. Similarly, you have Angans even in the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh architecture, called the Manduva Logili or Illu. These, and then you have the houses of Chettinad, of course any part of Tamil Nadu you see, and Kerala. In Kerala also you find even small houses have a small cutout in the slab. This is for the to take out the humidity and heat and everything, which has all now been forgotten. Now all these designs and all these methods at present have taken a back seat because of our own feeling of trying to keep up with the Jones kind of attitude. Without evaluating our climatic conditions and the Western countries' climatic conditions, our community, the architects, interior designers and all, we are rampantly copying their style and architecture. We have to understand that the Western, the European or the North American designs, or even Japanese and all these designs are actually, they lie in the temperate zone where it is cold to very cold in winter, where there is snowfall and everything. And the quality of sunlight is very subtle, instead of being like in what we have in India, the tropical power of the sun. So they need to bring in sunlight inside. They need that to heat up the interiors, the houses, the buildings. Whereas it is just the opposite for us. We need to cut down on the sunlight. We need to cut down on the heat. What we need is the sunlight at the core of the building. Because if we try to bring the sunlight at the core of the building, it usually comes in a filtered way, not the direct sunlight which comes from the western or the southern part of the building. So without understanding this, we have been using glass facades, glass curtain wall in all the buildings. You go to every part of the country, in the newer part, what new buildings have come, they are all with glass curtain walls. What is happening as a result? You find that the interiors are heating up horribly. To cool this part, huge air conditioners are used, and electricity is being just guzzled up by these buildings. Can we afford it? Then these buildings, most of the glasses, they also reflect back the heat and light. As a result, the environment, the outside atmosphere is also getting heated up. Now all these are leading to this huge cyclones we have seen. We have seen last year Fani, this year we have seen Amphan, and within few days we have seen the Nisarg also in the western coast. All these are resultant of this kind of architecture. But of course we cannot blame the architects only. It is also the builder, the promoter, and the buyers, those who are looking for futuristic modern buildings. Hence you have all these kind of jargon, where you use futuristic, constructivism, deconstructivism, leading on to brutalism, and finally of course Bauhaus is there. All these are killing the Indian traditional architecture. This is of course most of the commercial buildings what I am talking of. But when we do residences also, we put huge windows to bring in the garden from outside, or bring in the landscape, etc., etc. Again the same problem. Huge windows, you have heat, temperature control, you have to have air conditioning, etc., etc. Whereas if you see the buildings of our old buildings, we had smaller windows, cutter and bigger windows to the inner side, which would actually create wind flow and all that. So these sort of things we need to think of. Of course, we do need high-rise buildings because of the growth of population and everything. Otherwise we are now encroaching into the forest land. Finally we would have to encroach into the farmlands also. So in my mind I have this question, that do we need to go for glass curtain walls and the metal cladding and everything which is heating up the atmosphere? This is some thought which I would like the people, those who are going for new construction and all, to give it a thought. After the devastation and the effect of these cyclones and all, this had come to my mind. Hence I'm sitting in front of the camera to put a few thoughts in front of everybody, that can we not go back to our roots and then work with our traditional material? Laurie Becker did. Now take for example the Torrent Pharma building in Ahmedabad. It is one of my most favorite buildings, designed by Abhikram Architects in 1998. They had studied the Indian architecture, the vernacular architecture, and they had come out with a beautiful building design. It has the wind towers. Then in the wind towers they have sand catchers, then they have water mist, then these tunnels facilitate the cold air to come down, and there is an air vent. Beautiful building, and less amount of punctures around, and little inward looking building. These kind of things are which is required today. So can we not look inwards and learn like them from our own architecture, and the use of indigenous material, which can lead to sustainable holistic design? My request to the educators is that the students of architecture and engineering also must be taken to all the four corners of the country. Let them study the architectural heritage of India properly. Now my request to those who are thinking of building a new building, residential or commercial, please allow the architect to design a climate responsive vernacular architecture. You don't need to tell them, show photographs of a building in America or in Italy or somewhere and tell them to copy that. Please allow them. Then only we can have a sustainable, holistic living. Now most of us, most of the people, not just professionals, even others, they have heard of green buildings, the green building culture, green rating, etc. And many of the builders nowadays are trying to go for green building rating. Now, believe me, when I have seen, most of them, they talk of green, but they talk it interchangeably with eco-friendly and green. Now, green material and eco-friendly material are not the same. Something which is eco-friendly need not be green. I'll give a simple example. Now, you take for example flooring material of marble. In order to get a marble, we have to dig the earth, take out a boulder, and then cut it into different slabs, and then that is laid on the floor. Of course, it is eco-friendly because it is a natural product, it is biodegradable, etc., etc., all that. Now, question is it green? Can we rebuild the mountains again? Because in green, the 4 R's are the most important thing: reduce, reuse, renew, recycle. Now, which can be done when we use marble? None. So, if you say green, marble might not come into it. Eco-friendly? Yes. Now, what would be a green flooring? Surprisingly, you would find that a floor covering of acrylic marble would be green, because acrylic, of course, acrylic is not at all eco-friendly product because it comes from polyfibers, but it can be reused, it can be renewed, and it can be recycled. Usually, if you put acrylic carpet tiles or carpet rolls, when you want to remove them, they can take it away, they melt, and again they reuse, recycle, and come out with a new product. Similarly with wood also, though it is an eco-friendly product, it might not be green if it is not a certified product that it has been harvested at the right time. So, better than that is bamboo and cane, which has to be harvested every 3 years, or a plantation wood like rubber wood or eucalyptus wood, which can be harvested in 20 years, but teak wood has to be harvested only after 50 years. So, if we harvest a teak wood which is not matured, then it is not at all considered as green material. Now, instead of that, we can go for UPVC or metal, because all these can be reused, renewed, recycled, etc. So this is the difference between the two words, eco-friendly and green. So today, those who are watching this would feel that I have spoken of things already which you know. I have tried to put my thoughts together and bind them together, and I had attempted to share this, the importance of our vernacular architecture and our indigenous material which we have on our system, on our health and environment. Now, it is not just the building part, even our clothes. If we see that a pair of jeans is not good enough as a dhoti is anytime better than a pair of jeans, or a sari anytime, because they support our climate. These have come from centuries of usage of, it is a climate responsive thing. And then acrylic or this polyester clothes are not good enough for us. For us, cotton, linen, silk, this is better for our country. So these are sort of things which we should be teaching the students, the youngsters, those who are growing up. Otherwise, it is leading to a lot of skin problems and allergies also. You see, we need to look inwards now, but sadly, we Indians are suffering from a very bad, kind of malady of self-doubt, that we need all our centuries old traditions and all to be revalidated by the West. It has to go to West and come back. Now if you see the Green Building Congress guidelines, most of them were followed in India. Now it has gone to West, come back as Green Building guidelines, so that is acceptable to us. So this kind of inferiority complex that we have to give up, and we have to look inwards and say that our tradition, our whatever has grown, our indigenous material are important to us and are required for us. But now I'm happy, very happy actually, to state that for the past few years we see that we are trying to break these shackles of these foreign things, and we are trying to get back our pride in our own heritage, and we are trying to break this vicious circle and trying to take pride in our own thing. So again, let us go vocal for local and design as per the stated need of the client, but blending in the implied needs which would be required for a holistic and a good sustainable design for better environment, and which will lead to a better living condition.